Hey guys, welcome to episode 7 of the Herping Hour podcast. You're listening to the Leo Lowdown part 2 with the absolutely awesome Trey from Palmetto State Geckos. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on one of our Leo Lowdown episodes. It's basically a chance for us to get to know you as a breeder and a keeper, and we'll be asking you a series of questions relating to the hobby and, your goals and experiences so far. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and what got you into the hobby?
Okay, yeah. So I have always, since I was a child, been very interested in reptiles, aquariums. I used to have. Now, my father, on the other hand, absolutely hates the thought of a snake or a reptile. So I was able to have some lizards, but not anything above that. But aquariums, I was allowed to have fish. So I would just have, and I mean, this is 6 or 7, I would have a huge wall full of aquariums, and I would work very hard to earn money, either cutting grass or doing stuff like that, to have these aquariums and these setups. And I always thought maybe I would do something with that for a career, but my father made it very clear you cannot make money doing that. So that was not allowed. But now I'm at a point in my life where I get to make my own decisions. I'm an adult. So here I am. And leopard geckos just kind of came from the research. I was watching Brian Barczyk videos that would pop up on YouTube, and I would see the genetics, and I've always been a huge fan of genetics, and I love the manipulation of them. And but again, ball pythons, I wasn't exactly thrilled about keeping a snake. And then I just kept seeing the leopard gecko side of it. And that just kind of steered me in the direction of wanting to take care of them and learn about them and see, I saw that they were very easy to take care of. And here I am today.
Genetics is a big one for me as well. You've probably seen that when I'm chatting on my posts and stuff. So I think it's very fascinating, and especially with white and yellow, which is the most confusing gene ever, but also the different types of snows. I think that's quite interesting as well.
Yeah, so, white and yellow does confuse me. It's hard to tell if one's white and yellow. I love snows. That's what really sold me on it. I bought a snow at the first show I ever went to. It was like the second gecko I'd ever bought, and I love them. They're beautiful.
Definitely. I know you mentioned you had other things growing up, but what other reptiles do you keep now, or are you just solely Leos at the moment?
So I do have a crested gecko. It's a harlequin. I know about it. I'm not as experienced when it comes to them as everybody else. I happen to win this on Instagram, and they're so cool. I love them. I love watching them. My kids love watching them. I love seeing them climb the glass and everything. Will I get more into crested geckos? Probably not. It's probably just going to stay leopard geckos for me.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not against that, because I'm really fond of looking at like red-eyed crocodile skinks. I think they would be amazing to have one of those. And there's some other ones that maybe someday, but right now, when I throw my focus into something, I pretty much stay on that.
Yeah. I've had quite a lot of people say red-eyed crocodile skinks lately that we've chatted to, haven't we? Yeah. There's a lot of people that think they're awesome.
I think it's because it's such
they're just cool looking. They look like a dragon.
Yeah.
But they hide, is from what I hear. They're dug into the ground for the most part. So
yes, they're a very shy, I'd say, a very shy species in terms of not wanting to be handled so much and not being at the forefront of the viv. But they are really, when you've got like a nice setup with them, they look amazing when you do catch a glimpse of them.
Yeah, and I do love the look of ball pythons and tree pythons and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't like the thought of getting bit. I'm a very big man, but I'm a sissy when it comes to being bit.
What do you enjoy the most about keeping reptiles?
Well, it's it's funny, because I say the chore of it is what I like the most, because I believe that any menial task is meditation. And so anytime you're working on something, especially if you have a mentally stressful job, anytime you can do something menial for a certain amount of time, a lot of the times it can help, especially if you have music on and you're doing it. So picking up leopard gecko poop is meditation to me. So it's like I can stop thinking about, is the plant running? Is this happening? Is this? And after I'm done, I'm exhausted and all my time is gone, but I feel better. It's relaxing to me. So I really enjoy that. The people also are phenomenal. I've met so many different people, and it's great to nerd out with somebody and talk about
It is.
my geckos. And you find there are, like anything else, there are crappy people and everything, but there are also amazing people that will just pump you up every day. Charlene at KLG, every day she sends me a message and says, "Hey, this looks awesome. This is doing great." I mean, it's just, there's so many great people. It's amazing.
Yeah.
She's so lovely.
Oh, she is. She's absolutely amazing.
I think that's what we need within the hobby is there's a lot of gatekeeping, and I'm not for. I will openly say, look, you shouldn't be talking to people like that. You can't gatekeep a hobby which can be enjoyed by anyone. It's not up to you to say whether this person is allowed to do this or that person. Advise people, and there's a way to do it, but don't stand there and pretend you're the pillar when all you're doing is being mean to people. We need to hold each other accountable if we make mistakes and aren't honest, but at the same time, if they're doing something well, tell them. Look, that gecko was amazing. You've done really well with this project. It's not, although some people say it's competition, I don't find it is, because at the end of the day, this should be classed as, well, this person might eventually want one of my project animals. You've got to see someone as like an equal. You can't see yourself as any higher. But that's just my personal take on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be competition instinctively inside yourself. Yeah. But you have to be able to, like me and George and I both do super giants. And when George has a beautiful super giant, I'm like, but I'm also very happy for him. I love him. We talk frequently, and and I see this a lot on Instagram where it's like the same 10 people that are really close, and then they exclude other people in the same little things, and it's just, so I almost don't even want to get involved with it, even though you have to, because that's a part of the business of growing it. And I'm not so much as growing as monetarily want to make money off of it, but I do want people to look at my content and the things that I create and be happy with it.
Or say like, oh, that's a Palmetto gecko.
Exactly.
You want the kind of recognition for your work. Yeah,
and it's, and there's a story behind it that I'll tell when you ask one of these other questions, but I have that drive for that. And because I want people to say, and I've been getting a lot of really good feedback about that, saying that I'm doing it the right way. I've gone the right direction on how to do that. But, but so you have to play these games, but you should always be able to value what everybody else is doing. You can't be so, and that's the best thing about like Jay at Eco. He's obviously got nothing to prove. He's so open with people and talks to them and will share their stuff. And it's pretty amazing when you find people at the top of their game that are willing to do that.
Definitely. What are your favorite genetics to work with?
Yikes. So I'm addicted to super giants. I am, and I should translate this and write it down. I'm 6'7", about 330 pounds. I don't know what that translates to the metric, but I'm a giant. I'm a giant person. I played football, and so when I first saw a super giant, I was like, oh man, that's amazing. And so I did a lot of research, and I found somebody who was working really hard with them. And I talked to him. I went down, drove the 8 hours to go visit his setup, and was in love with the size of what a super giant is. It's not just really size, because you can make any gecko fat. Super giants, a really good super giant is just built differently. It's like a little alligator, and they're usually more calm. I'm working really hard at trying to make them more colorful, because a lot of the super giants are just regular trimper. But that's changing in the short amount of time that I've been in. I've seen more. I love lavender. I love snows. I'm working really hard on that. I didn't think, because I'm completely the opposite of most people when it comes to bandwagon stuff. But when I saw a Black Knight in firsthand, I was like, oh yeah, I got to have one of those too. Other than that, bold stripes. I love bold stripes. I love that somebody put a lot of really hard work into making dots turn into a line. So yeah, and I'm not one of those that goes gaga over eclipse. Like I like less eclipse. I mean, don't get me wrong. Excuse me, I like eclipse too, but leopard gecko's eyes are beautiful.
Yeah.
It's there. You look at them and it's amazing. So I like to keep that. I do like the red eyes on a radar, but I also like I have a super snow that's head eclipse that's crossed with black knight, and she's like full dotted from one end to the other, and so I really enjoy that also. And again, not saying I don't like eclipse, because I do like things that eclipse can do, but yeah. So those are pretty much my go-to morphs.
My favourite eyes on a leopard gecko are actually the G&T eyes. They're just so piercing. Yeah. I love them, don't I? I could just take photographs of their eyes all day. It's just amazing.
I'm not big on morphs, but the bold and the super snows, I've got such a soft spot. And your G&Ts as well. I love your G&Ts. They always come out super lovely temperament, and the green on them is always banging. But yeah, bold and super snows, I have to, little soft spot for those.
Yeah, and I've got and I'm so upset. Like, I bought this beautiful lavender bold Max Snow, and then I bought a male to go with her. And it took forever after she finally started ovulating for her to let the male take. And so her first egg hatches next week, and I'm not here. I'm so angry. And so, but I've been waiting for but she's such a gorgeous lavender, like all the way through. And he's so many different colors, and they're both 3 years old, so they've kept the lavender throughout the entire time. And I'm just, I'm a big purple fan. I like, as I show with my Lakers jerseys on all the time, I love it. And then I love snows. I love that you can put two snows together and get a super snow. Like, that's amazing. That's so cool. And now I'm a big fan of tugs. I just got 3 tug snows, and I got them with the purpose of I was going to cross Black Knight to them. But now it's like I'm looking at them and I don't want to. I want to replicate that. So that might change.
What is it that you're working towards? It doesn't necessarily mean project related, because I know that some people prefer not to reveal what the goals are, with what they're working on. But just in general, maybe enclosures or your main aim, as a keeper.
My main goal is to, for one, prove to everybody that bells can be super giants. My guy Odin, being a bell, he's about 114 grams, and he's just a year. And then I have some super snow bell super giants that are putting on amazing weight. Mm-hmm. That's huge to me to try to someday hopefully maybe break the record on a healthy. Like, I am very strict when it comes to feeding. I will only tongue feed my super giants about until they'll stop eating, for the most part, every day, until they hit a year. And then, like with Odin, I'll let him eat when he's ready to eat. I won't leave food for them. I don't leave food for any of my geckos, because you can make, like I said, you can make any gecko fat. Other than that, I'm just really working. I want to replicate this lavender. Most of the other morphs outside of Supergiant, I'm trying to replicate what was already done. I might start trying to add different things as I go. Being my first year, I'm not trying to overstretch, which I already pretty much have overstretched, but luckily I've been able to manage. Yeah, other than the Supergiants, it's just seeing what I can do from here. So I am working on trying to get a totally orange gecko. I just got one from Tug I think she's 96% covered. So I'll keep working on that.
Cool. I don't work with lavenders myself. I know people that do. I do think they're absolutely stunning. Mm-hmm. And I don't keep any giants either, or super giants. They are quite cool, but if you put large geckos together, you're going to get large geckos. It's the same with most things, but there is, as you say, a healthy way to do it, and that would be really interesting to keep seeing what other people are producing, including yourself.
Yeah, it's I at first I was, because of course everybody reads what Ron Tremper wrote, and Ron Tremper says it's a gene, and everybody in the argument is like Jeff said, that he doesn't understand why it's such an argument. It's because if it's a gene, it's easy. If it's something line bred, it's going to be extremely hard, and you have to be very selective, and you're going to have to keep geckos for a very long time to just see how big they're actually going to get. Yeah. So people want it to be a gene. Everything wants to be a gene.
Yeah.
But it's either way, you can replicate it because it's happening. So
well, I guess
that's what I'll keep pushing.
If you look at it from in the same perspective as a human, it has to be in the genes in some respects.
Oh yeah.
Because like yourself, you're super tall, and you'll have got that from your mum and your dad. So it is the same thing in that respect. So yeah, I guess if you look at it from that point of view, then there's always going to be an element of genealogy involved.
Well, the way Jeff explained it to me is what really hit me home. Like, there's no one gene that's going to make up size. It's not like we have one gene that says, hey, tall.
True.
It would be a bunch of different genes. And with line breeding, you can do that. You can hit a bunch of different genes at once.
Yeah.
And it's like my parents, if you saw my parents, and my father gets asked this all the time, like, who was really my father? Neither one of them are big. It's just, I kind of popped out just larger. But the funny thing is my daughter, she's 7, she's almost 5 foot tall. So she got the gene for me.
Yeah.
So
it's true. You can have a lot of different genes under one specific thing, and then you've obviously got your two alleles which go under each specific gene, and you could go on forever really. But it's true, not one specific gene makes up that you're going to be that tall. So because I mean, with me and my brother, he's 6'1" and I'm like 5'5", and it's just the way it is. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see you do the bell stuff. I'll be watching
definitely.
that.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool.
Yeah, especially the snows. Like the one female I have, she's progressed. She's 3 months. She's putting on 10 grams every month. She's already 34, 35 grams at 3 months. So she and then the male I have that's going to be ready for her next year, he's doing the same. He's at 3 months and he's 33, 34 grams. So that's the real, and that's the main thing I'm focusing on now that I've got it in my head. Like, this is probably line bred. I'm focusing on, you have a big male, but you need a really big female too. So not that my bells that I have with Odin were small. They're about 85 grams and they're built large, but now I'm trying to find the largest females I can to make sure that one way or the other, all my bases are covered.
Yeah. Cool. What project outcomes have you been happiest with? So was there anything that you was disappointed with, or is there anything that you've been overall, happy overall with?
So my season started off, because I didn't start till late before everybody. I was pretty much just spending this year getting the geckos that I wanted to breed. It started really slow. I've got a white and yellow raptor who is such an angel of a gecko. She's been so amazing. She's so even-tempered and beautiful. And I bred her to what's supposed to be, it's about 60 whatever percent het tremper, tangerine emerine, and all of his genes have come through and they've all come out. All the babies have come out exactly like him. But it's been the lesson that's teaching me, like, how to take care of them. And their babies, I mean, they're not going to be worth a whole lot to a lot of people, but there's their place for them. And I've said this before, like, even lower grade morphs from a higher end breeder, there's a place so that people don't go to pet stores and spend $60 at PetSmart.
Definitely.
So that hopefully they eventually get out of that trade, and that people can get, like, all these geckos. Yeah, if I sold them, I'd probably sell them $70 to $80, but they're 100% genetically pure. They're all 100% het raptor. There's going to be a really good play. And plus they're pretty. Like, they're not clowns because, of course, they're not from a clown line, but they're not, the patterns aren't broken up, but they are orange and green. And with that white and yellow from the mother, they are very green and they're pretty.
Yeah.
So there's a really good place for them. On top of that, the super giants were really slow because this was first year breeding season for both females I had. And one of them, every egg was fertile, but they were all bad. They were just, the eggs themselves weren't great. And, and this goes to my experience so far, that just because a female is overweight doesn't mean that that's good for her to breed, because her eggs have been the most unhealthy, and she was overweight when I got her. But the other female has stayed a normal size and a good throughout the entire breeding, she's put out her first 4 eggs were not fertile because my male was still kind of young, and I don't think he was, getting it right. But after I repaired, every egg has come out, has been great. So I have a lot of really, really pretty Bell blood radar supergiants that are gaining size now. All of my bold stripe females just started ovulating about a month ago. So now I'm starting to get I've got my first bold stripe baby out, and it's beautiful. And I'll start having a whole lot of them pop here in the next month and 2 months. I'm very eager, so I threw everything pretty much male to start with, and now everything is going in female. So
yeah,
I'll be having geckos pop between now and the next 3 months. So yeah, but other than that, I can't really complain about my season for being the first one. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of work.
Yeah,
a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
Fun.
Yeah,
That's all that matters, is that it was fun. Like,
oh yeah,
that's my personal opinion on it. Whether some things might go wrong, you're not a breeder unless they do go wrong. To be honest, not everything can go swimmingly, but it's always got to be fun. It's when it isn't fun anymore, is when you think, is this for me anymore? So yeah.
Yeah, the only really frustrating part, besides dealing with some people that think they're, the absolute expert in everything, which I've had to, is watching males mate. It's the most frustrating damn thing. It's like they are the dumbest creature on the planet. Oh my
God, don't even get me started on that. Honestly, they even go for the face, and it's like, please,
yes.
Come on, I'm gonna have to show you where it goes soon.
I know. I'm so many times I'm like, God, should I help? And it's so sad because every female, not one female, has not had the expression on her face like,
yes, that is. We were saying that, especially this season.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of new males that have had their first season this year, and oh my goodness me, I just feel
it's amazing. And then it's so funny. It's like it's I don't want it to be vulgar about it, but it's just, you're watching, and then they finally, and you're like, yes, finally. And their faces, the male's face, it's like boom, 2 seconds, and the female's like,
is that it? Did I? Yeah,
I've never seen a male smile so much in my life when the face, like, closed eyes, have a little nap, big cheesy smile. He's done. That's it for the rest of the season. He's happy.
Time to clean up and walk away.
Yeah, we had the same this season with a couple of new males, so that was quite funny. But
that's my problem, is all of my males are new, so it's like every one of them are like, and then it's like, I've got one male that he's a bold stripe, he's 3 years old, and he got 4 females, he all fertilized, great. But every time, even when I repaired, it was like it was the first time. And I'm like, dude, you have done this so many times in the past month. But that's if that's the worst part, then hey. Yeah. I've been lucky. I haven't had any kind of, I'm gonna knock on plastic wood, but I haven't had a whole lot of health issues with any of them. And I've been very lucky. I've been lucky with the babies that have come out. They've all been very healthy.
Yeah.
So I know that time will come, but I've been lucky when it comes to that.
Is there anything in the UK that you'd like to keep that isn't readily available in the USA?
And I hadn't talked about this yet, but when we talk about favorite morphs, the Sunfire, that DC geckos, I'm lucky enough. I have 2. I have a male and a female, and she is just starting to ovulate, and they are 2 of my most beautiful geckos that I have. I just love them. And so Dave did it really well when he did that line, and because it's not like, it's almost like it's a tangerine that bleeds to a darker color. It starts very bright, almost like there's a light to it, and then it bleeds to a darker orange, and it's just so amazing. But as far as working with, there's, of course, Elko Schutt in Holland is doing the satins, and he's, it'll be, years before I would ever be able to get one of them from him, because he's trying to build that right. And if you haven't seen a satin gecko, you should Google it and look it up, because it's cool. It's, it's new. It's something that nobody, and the way that it happened to him, and I say lucky, he deserves it. He's been doing this 25 years. He's forgot more than I will ever know. He shows me his bookcases on books of geckos, and he has hundreds of them, and he just put 2 snows together and out came a baby with no bumps. And then when he prepared that back, he got more. And it's something that all people hope that one day they'll get a morph that's new and unique to them. So that someday, some point might be something. And I've talked about this before, but the best thing about Europe is if you go outside of Europe to get a gecko, it's very time consuming. It's a lot of money. So you have to pick the very best you can get. So there's so many really beautiful geckos.
Yeah, there is.
It's so every day there's something new, and I'm very bad at buying geckos, so I try to not. But but other than the satins and the sunfires, it's everything that y'all do is amazing.
Do you have any advice for new keepers and breeders? Like anything you'd wish you knew or you found difficult when you were first starting out?
Make sure you do your research. Don't go to a show, which Europe doesn't have that problem because y'all don't have nearly as many shows. But in the United States, every state has a reptile show in several different cities every month. You can go find one. Don't go to those shows without doing your research on who's going to be there. Because what I did was I thought, hey, I'm going to get $200-300. I'm going to go to this show. I'm going to find a breeder who's going to tell me everything about this gecko. And that's what I'll do. And so I paid the extra money for me and my daughter to go early. I sat in, we were first in line. It's freezing because it was late January. We're sitting in line and we get in and like it's a rush of people. You don't know where you're going. There's people elbowing all around you. So I picked up this beautiful snow, and they're in a little tub and there's all writing around it and you're trying to see, and the person behind you is talking to you like a used car salesman, and you're trying to, and especially if you're not an expert, you're not going to see everything with a first glance, and it's $200. And it says proven breeder, this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll take this one. And you give them the money and you walk away. And then I noticed that she was very poorly mistreated. She had shed, all of the tips of her toes were gone. It was just miserable for her. And that breeder was a terrible, terrible person. And so if you're going to go to shows and you're going to do that to start off, do your research. I'm not saying the shows are bad, but some of the people those shows are bad. Do your research and talk to, find the top breeders. If you're going to build, not everybody has the money that I was luckily able to spend. But then start smaller, get 1 or 2 instead of 10. But talk to the top breeders, because most of the top breeders will talk to you about any geckos, not just theirs, because they like to talk about geckos. So do that. And don't just step on the backs of these people that have been put 10 and 15 and 20 years without doing them the service of doing their stuff the right way. It's, don't just grab it and then start throwing it in different directions and then not telling people the truth about what the genetics are, and be honest. And other than that, just don't give up. It can be daunting at times. You can see, right now with the times of so many people in there, you start thinking about projects. That's why I've tried to push off individual projects for a year or 2 from now, because right now, if I tried to pick something, I would put a lot of really hard work in for somebody to just do 10 different people do the same thing within a week.
Yeah.
And because right now it's like, it's like that episode of South Park when they try to do something, they're like, oh, Simpsons did it, because, there's people out there doing it. So you just get into it, start working, learning, and then start thinking, hey, maybe if I tweak this, or maybe if I tweak that, don't overwhelm yourself.
That's some perfect advice. That I have to agree wholeheartedly with what you've just said. How much time do you spend on the hobby?
Lord. Well, taking care of them about 2 hours a day because I get to work about 6:30 every morning. I stay until 5, and then I get home, I spend dinner and some time with the kids, and then about 7:30. I try to go around 7:30 at night to when it's it's darker. They're used to it. They know I'm coming, and I have a lot of first year geckos or young geckos, so I have to feed them every day. And like I said, I don't just put a whole huge bowl in there because I want to know what their pace is of what they're eating and how much they're eating, and I want to make sure I know immediately if there's an issue.
Yeah.
So I go through each tub, and then every gecko I have, and like I've up to almost 60 now, at least once a week I take them out and give them time. Even the newer ones, I have some geckos that they could care less about getting out. They could care less about me. They could care less about anything going on. But I do have some that, again, probably care less about me, but they want to get out and they want to see things and they want to explore. So I will do that, and I make sure that happens. Then if you count in, so that's about 2 hours of that. I'm trying to talk my wife into helping. She's not very keen on the idea. But about 2 hours of taking care of them a night. And then if you talk social media and what I've been doing with recording and editing, it's a lot of my time after that. I'm up till about 12 o'clock at night doing that. So, but it's worth it. It will pay off in the end, I hope.
Do you think it's important to have a hobby in terms of well-being? So for like your mental well-being and stuff like that. So it could be it doesn't necessarily mean reptile keeping. It could be like stamp collecting, model building, that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. To touch on what I said about like menial, like it's good to have something that you can do as meditation, because not everybody can meditate. I can't sit down and try to clear my own mind because I think about 4,000 things. So I have to replace that with at least one or two things instead of 15. So there's that. And then there's, everybody needs to make their mark on something. Yep. And with a hobby, you can make your mark on something, even if it's airplanes and it's a mark to you. I've taken on YouTube because it's a mark on my kid. My daughter thinks it's amazing. So I do that. And it gives me an outlet. It's, my other, and I don't want to skip ahead, but yeah, it's important to have something for you. You give yourself, especially as an adult and an adult that has a family, you give yourself to your family, your friends, your work, all the time, 97% of the time. You need 3% that you need something to be selfish with. You can do that, especially if you're being a good person, you're being a good father, a mother, a partner, a husband, a wife. There is times where you need, and if you can share that hobby with somebody, that's great. I wish I could. I don't have nearly as many people or friends that give a rat's ass about reptiles, except for online. But
yeah,
it's good to have something that's for you. And I suggest that, like, if you and your partner or you and your husband and wife share a hobby, find a hobby for yourself that you can put some time with, because it gives you some alone time.
I think we're quite fortunate, whereas me and Stace, we both enjoy reptiles, but at the same time we enjoy the different sides as well. Yeah. So I'm more like the husbandry and everything, so I'll sit and read up for hours on that and then share what I've learned with her, and she's the genetic side. So she'll sit there, and I might not always understand it. I'll be totally honest. I'm like, yeah. But I'm still partially learning when she's throwing all these alleles and hets and, all the terminology at me. So, yeah, although it's the same hobby, it's also very different at the same time because we're on opposite sides of it in a way, I guess. So
don't feel bad about that either, because I love genetics. But I'm a theorist when it comes to genetics. Like, my love for genetics is talking about, like, but when it comes to the terms and all that and the science behind it, blah. Okay. It's me. It's more, I can see what happens with the world because of genetics. I'm not an overly religious person. I do believe in something, and genetics shows me that, like, everybody is the way they are because of where they came from and all of that. So don't feel bad about not being that nerdy about it. I'm not. I try to, but I'm just too busy.
I theorize a lot of the time when it comes to specific, like certain genes that are confusing and that people really don't have a firm answer for. So
Yeah.
I'll theorize quite often, won't I, of what I think might be the possible reason for it.
With you, there's always like, I wonder if, or maybe this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, I get mad when people are like, "Oh, it's eclipse. It has to have this." And me and Jay got into it because he's got a Black Knight Super Snow that he says is had eclipse. It has every pattern for that eclipse except for the eyes, even though are already dark because it's Super Snow, don't have what he thinks is complete. But who's to say that because you're eclipse, you have to have all of that at once?
yeah.
It could be you have, like, if it's a radar, it has the red eyes, but it doesn't have the full pattern change, or it has the pattern change, but not the full red eyes. I mean, there's no, you can't, unless you're a scientist and you did all the markings and all this, and you can't say for sure exactly what eclipse is doing to the reptile, to the lizard.
Well, it's like with humans, things change and mutate all the time. It's not going to stay stagnant in reptiles just because we're pairing this with this. Everything changes and mutates, and it's we've been doing it that long now that it's bound to start that process because survival of the fittest, everything adapts.
Exactly. So, I mean, and it's even with them, like, you see how quickly leopard geckos change genetically for survival. Like, I mean, it can change in a heartbeat with them. Yeah. It changes quicker, but it's like, back in the day, flowers didn't smell like flowers. Flowers smelled like meat because dinosaurs and everything were attracted to that. And again, I'm reading from a scientist who said this. I don't know for a fact but he says because it attracted dinosaurs towards the flowers, they smelled like meat. And that's, that's what happens with genetics. It changes. Yep. And so leopard geckos, they're going to change because they know changing means survival.
Yeah, well, I've had this discussion with people when they push I believe you should give every animal a chance to be in as naturalistic as possible, but some morphs just aren't designed for it. In the wild, they wouldn't survive 5 minutes because they're not great at hunting, they've not got the best balance, they've not got the greatest of eyesight, because obviously we've played with their genetics. So what's to say that these ones that aren't the greatest at surviving in the wild now aren't adapting and changing? So like your super snows and stuff, I don't believe they would last as long as obviously any other gecko in the wild, just because of how a lot of them are bad at hunting. They'll grab the floor instead of grabbing their actual food. So everything's that constant change. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and it depends, because it's probably I'm not an expert, but I see, like, because I have so many different snows, it just varies in the gecko. There's some days when they're on point, and there's some days when they're just and I think it's just because they're really not that interested in actually eating at the moment. But it's they're domesticated now. So
So outside of Leo's, do you have any other interests or hobbies that you enjoy doing?
I do. I have if you go to my my YouTube channel, if you scroll down and you look, you'll see where at one point it was a Jeeping YouTube channel, because I like to take my Jeep off road, and I have a very set up Jeep for that. And now I was living in Utah, which is a state here in the United States, which was amazing for if you love outdoors and you love anything like that, and you could off-road quite easily. So when I moved to where I'm at now, it's not as prevalent a thing. So when I started moving to this, I moved to that. But yeah, I love to get out and go to the wild and take my Jeep and my kids and just explore. And the best thing about Jeeps is you can go places that people have never been. And I invite people that to go to my channel and to look at this, because you'll see things that this Jeep is places where nobody's ever been with a car other than a Jeep, and it's really amazing. So it's something I suggest that it goes to meditation, because you're focusing so hard on not dying that for a good 2 hours you might be beat up from rocking around, but you forgot the corporate life, or you forgot all your debts and troubles, and you got to live and see things. So yeah, that would be my hobby. Here in America we have guns, so that's kind of a hobby. Again, it's for the shooting aspect of it, for the sight shooting and accuracy that I enjoy. But yeah, that's about it.
We have guns over here also, but it's very strict in the way of getting a specific license, and you've got to go through all sorts of tests and mental health tests, obviously for obvious reasons and stuff. But it's very rare you'll find someone who actually has a gun. We can use, airsoft rifles and stuff, but they still need a license too. So the last question surrounding mental well-being would you say it's better to keep a schedule for feeding, cleaning, weighing the Leos that you've got?
For me, no. I know there's people that I hate scheduling myself, because I have to live by that every day. Every day I have a calendar I have to look at, and I've got meeting, this meeting, this. So for me, it's just, I look at the clock as, all right, do I go knock it out now so that I have time to rest before it's actually time to go to bed? When it goes to weighing, and again, I do weigh religiously, but specifically my super giants, I've gotten to a point now where I can pretty much tell what the weights are for the normals. But yeah, I mean, I can see where it would be for certain people that's just they have to. I, on the other hand, would go absolutely crazy if I set myself to that schedule. The only thing I'm OCD about is alerts for like emails and messages. And if I will vomit if I see somebody's that has like 1,000 unread emails. But other than that, that's the only thing I'm really OCD about when it comes to, but I can understand where people do, because I have that, like that when it comes to those type of alerts, like it will drive me crazy if I know I have an unread message. But so, yeah, I can see where that is a really a huge benefit for somebody that, to be able to keep that kind of schedule. It is a good thing for that. It's a good outlet for it, because you can set strict schedules for yourself with that. So
I do prefer to keep schedules and weigh-in documents and stuff, whereas Nick she doesn't really do schedules, so I get that.
A quick text to you saying, "Oh, this is what this is." That's schedule enough for me.
I'm studious with records and keeping all that, but I'm not with schedule. I'm miserable at it.
What's the worst and best part of keeping reptiles for you?
The best part is when you hatch, when everything you put together hatches and it looks great. I've been able to experience that for the first time the past couple months, and then it's amazing. It's amazing to be able to, and I hate to feel like I'm playing God, but it's amazing to put this stuff together and it work out like you want it to. Like, there's not a whole lot of areas when you can do that. You can do that with dogs. Growing up, my father raised dogs for a little while and trained them. But that's miserable work. Like, I would never want to have that many. Not that I don't love dogs. I have a French bulldog and we adore her, but being able to do this on such of a mass scale with relative ease. And again, I'm not trying to downplay it, because I've only got 50. I know there's people that have 600. Jeff has 600. I couldn't imagine. But with relative ease, and then to see the fruits of what you put together it's awesome. It's amazing. It's amazing the small moments that you have with a gecko that, and again, I preach that these are reptiles. They're not puppies. They're not looking at us for affection, but there is times when you can almost get a human moment out of it. I have a baby that every time I open her lid or his lid, they could care less about, they just they look up at me and want to get out and just sit there and it's those types of moments are amazing. The things I hate people purposely trying to hurt people when it comes to putting people down, or, I wasn't always big. I got big later in life. I was bullied when I was younger. And then as I got larger and stronger, I was able to stop that. And a lot of people, they can't. So I've always been, I've always taken up for the people like that, which that doesn't happen often, but I hate seeing that. And I hate seeing people, like, because it's so much easier nowadays to cyber bully people when it comes to stuff like this. And you can ruin people's life just because you don't like their opinion. And again, there are very ignorant people out. And I don't like saying that I believe even those people that are very terrible can have an opinion, but they can. And as long as it's not physically hurting me or my family and everything, that is what it is. We're talking lizards. And again, if it's hurting the lizard, like blatantly, like I had to get on a page that I'm on Facebook. I had to get on them the other day because the guy was posting geckos that were grossly underweight and enlisted as male, and then tried to say, oh, no, it's because they were breeding. No, you listed this as a male. I'm not stupid. You took it down. That kind of stuff gets me. But, how people keep things, I know y'all in particular, you have a way that you like to keep, and I'm not saying that's wrong, and I don't go against that. I wish I could keep all of mine. I do keep, like Odin is in a 40-gallon tank. I don't keep him in a tub. And when I do keep in tubs, they're in 28 or 32 quart tubs. They're huge. And I could keep a whole lot more geckos if I went smaller, but I won't. But it's a tough subject. It's, I can see both sides of that, because I can see like really a lot of reptile snakes, most leopard geckos, if they could live in a hole and get their food and procreate and drink, and a lot of them would be happy. But again, I don't know for a fact. I just, from what I've seen a little bit, I also see the ones that would like to get out and do more. So, it's a fine line. It's kind of like that. How would they be outside in the world? They wouldn't be as happy. Any of those would be happy to be in a shoebox in your house, comfortable. But that's hard, and it's hard when you see that kind of fighting and bickering going on. So, that's it's you're never going to get anywhere by beating people down with stuff like that. So, and I love hearing, like, when y'all talk about, you always talk about, this is what we do. We're not yelling at you, but this is what we think is right, and that's fine. That's more than your belief. But yeah, other than that, there's a lot of really good people in this industry and hobby, and it's been really good to me so far. So
I think there's the fine line, isn't there, like between advising someone and then just being outright rude about it. Yeah. And I think you have to remember that words on a screen cannot be interpreted as well without facial expressions, tone of voice, and stuff like that. So people find it difficult to understand that maybe I'm just giving advice over shouting at you, and social media is terrible in that respect, that you cannot figure out how the other person is actually responding to you properly without emojis and stuff like that. So if I say to you, oh, this isn't quite right, you need to do it this way, otherwise your gecko's gonna like die, and put a love heart, it softens the blow, if you get what I mean. But you're not necessarily trying to be mean with what you're saying. It might be just you're very forward but not being rude about it, if I'm making any sense.
No, it's 100%, because like, again, I'm in charge of a plant here, a manufacturing facility that makes pet food additives. And trust me, I have to text constantly, and people come to me and they're like, why are you so angry? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was just telling you, you can't tell from a text somebody's attitude. Yeah. And so it's hard to do that. It's hard to give people advice, and and even the ones that think the problem is there's a lot of people that think, oh, this is the right thing for me to do, I should be telling you this, and in their heart, and that's what I hate. I love that I can see both sides, and I hate it too, because sometimes I want to be so angry at people, and my wife gets so mad at me because she will bash something or somebody, and I'll say, well, look, do you think? And she looks at me like, shut up, you better not be on their side about it. And I'm not. I can see other people's side. So I know there's a lot of people that's just mentally, they cannot see that what they're trying to tell somebody is not the right time or the right way to do it. And it's not like they're evil people. Yeah. It is what it is. It's tough. You have to have and that's another thing. That's another big thing about what a lot of the problem is in this hobby is people are so proud about what they do. And they put so much work, and any little thing can be construed as, oh, you're putting down what I've been doing, and you get hurt. I've been through it, and I'm pretty good at not having that happen. But you put so much effort into it, and then somebody says one little thing, and like you get upset, and but you can't. You got to be you got to be strong about it. You got to understand that it's not personal most of the time.
No, I think though constructive feedback is good, and I welcome that. If anyone was to see something that I posted and think, oh, that's not quite right, I'd rather them send me a private message and just say, look, I don't think what you wrote was correct. I welcome things like that. So it depends on the situation, really.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd know the answer to this question, actually, but somebody asked, why is live feeding snakes so common in the USA?
I can easily tell you why people are attracted to that, because people here like carnage. They you go to you might not even know what a monster truck rally is, or you watch a race. A lot of people hope for the wreck and the explosion. So that's what, Brian Barczyk got really famous because he would publicize himself getting bit, and a lot of people didn't like that. And Coyote Peterson, he really publicized the act of an animal biting him or stinging him. And people are attracted to that chaos, and so you can get a lot of views by watching a snake eat a mouse alive. Now, Brian Barczyk will not show that. He and again, I'm not a big, huge personal fan of him. I enjoy watching something where I can see animals, and it got me into this. So there is good with what comes from him, regardless of what people feel about him or the way he keeps animals and blah blah blah. So, but yeah, it's it's a sensationalized thing. It's and a lot of people will argue, and again, I'm just talking about if it's for views or for likes on Instagram and stuff like that. I don't see a whole lot of it. I wouldn't watch it. I'm not a fan of watching, and I understand that's what happens in life. I'm not foolish, but I feel bad for the mouse. Like I get it. Like
I'm the same.
I'm not that type of person that likes, because there's a market for that. There's people that like to watch pimples get popped.
Yeah.
There's people that like to watch legs getting broken during sports. I can't watch that. Like
I'm the same.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I
can't watch that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just the sensationalism of it. It's it's chaos, and it's again, it goes back to genetics though. There's like inside of us there are animals. We have animalistic traits because we had to survive, and when we see something like that, there's something in us being satisfied of knowing that snake is eating, it's raw and it's like tribal, and it's it takes millions of years before stuff like that gets out of genes. So you're going to have that kind of reaction for some people.
The last question was actually from Harley, but obviously she's not here. Her question was, what's your opinion on the racking systems Stacey's been working with to achieve regards to Leo's, mainly, with UV, the possibility of obviously overhead heat, so then it opens for loose substrate, more scope for enrichment, that sort of thing?
I think it's beautiful. It's wonderful. I don't know about pricing. Like, I don't know what it costs. I haven't looked into any of that. I do know that when I started, of course, immediately you get into one group on Facebook and they're like, oh, mats, it's the only way. But most of those groups are either led by breeders or they are championed by people that are breeding, or, and that's the cheap and effective way to do it. Then you get into other groups that will, and by the way, they will all ostracize you for voicing an opinion one way or the other.
Yeah.
So then you have the other group that's like, because I've gotten kicked out of groups because I get so mad when somebody's like, oh my God, you let your leopard gecko breed and you don't know the full genetics. You must kill all the babies immediately. No, you now have a responsibility. You must raise that and you can sell it. And that goes to what I said about, you can sell pet only geckos to people, and it's so much better than them going to a pet store that has had a poor gecko there for a year and a half that's miserable and it's not taken care of, and it's or there's 6 of them in PetSmart or any of those places. You can do that. And yes, if you were irresponsible and you let your geckos breed and you don't know it's now your burden. That's your burden to take care of that and to deal with that. It's
been kicked out of a couple, haven't you?
Yeah.
But So I've tried both. I've tried UV. I have one gecko in particular that, and the thing I've found is he is like the craziest gecko. He just rolls with it. If it's ground heat, he lays on the ground. If it's top heat, he'll climb up to it. And I'll go, and he doesn't care one way or the other. And he's also the cheeky one that escaped. I've only had one escape, and I don't know how he did it, but it's because even when I saw the top it was one of the top, like he's in a 20-gallon top screen that slides out. And it was open only enough to where when I saw it, I was like, there's no way he got out of that. So I didn't even think about it. But then when I start cleaning, he's one that comes out and watches intently what I'm doing. And I didn't see him. So for about a week, I was just like, he's gone. It's no way and then all of a sudden here he comes trotting out across the floor. And so I got him put back, but he's, they're so versatile that one way. And also I know other people that have literally has a 22-year-old gecko that he has kept on sand since the day he's had it, because that's where they come from in his mind. That's what they're on. Yeah. And it's been fine. And so, it's hard to say with leopard geckos because they're so adaptive and will live and flourish regardless of what you do, unless you really are really, really trying to kill this thing. But I would love to have those type that you're making. And it's, I think they're cool. I think they're, I don't have enough experience though, knowing which way is better. And I won't profess to even say that one way is the better. I just know a lot of people stick to their guns on the heat pads and the tubs because it's just cost effective, and it's space, and it's, and does that mean it's right? Absolutely not. I mean, that's why I don't really plan on getting bigger, but I have in my mind to explore more of that, because like I said, I do have several breeding geckos that I keep in, because again, I feel like maybe if my supergiant is in a 40-gallon, a huge tank, a huge 40 long, like a huge breeder tank, maybe it'll help him get larger. I don't know.
Lastly, would you like to tell us something about yourself that not everyone will know? So the aim is trying to bring out a little of the person behind the hobby, because everyone sees what you do in the hobby and stuff, but nobody knows you as a whole. So
right. Yeah. So I growing up, I played American football, which is
we've got like rugby, which would be similar but without the safety gear.
Yes. So, like the NFL, so American football. And I was pretty good, and that's from other people. I'm one of the youngest people to ever get a scholarship to a university to do it. And I ended up going to one of the best colleges in the United States. They had just won a national championship. And then about 2 years into that, my mother had a stroke, and it was just her and my brother. And I left to go take care of them. And I've been working 2 jobs almost ever since then. So that's helped me to where I'm at right now, because I'm very established in my career at relatively in a young age. I'm 39. So I'm able to do the things the right way. So the way I cope with, I could have been in the NFL, I could have made a lot of money, blah, 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 is I really throw myself into trying to be the absolute best at whatever I'm doing. And that includes this and every hobby I do. And, I'm trying to do this to like put myself back on a level where I have my life and I'm doing the right things, and I can be looked at as this is the guy who does something pretty well.
Definitely.
And that's why I do the YouTube videos and I do this. It's because, I want, and I know my daughter's going to be proud of me regardless, because I feel like I'm a good father. But, I want there to be other reasons. I want her to be able to say, hey, my dad's a great dad. He goes to work every day and he breeds leopard geckos that people look for. And he makes videos that have content that I watch, and I'm proud to tell my friends to watch and stuff like that. So, I don't want people to ever think that when I'm talking about my geckos, I'm bragging because I've spent the money that I have and done the things I have, because innately inside of me, I have to. And when I tell people to try to do it like I did, I understand that people can't do that in the amount that I have, but hell, I can't. But I want them to understand that they should at least put that passion into what they're doing, and the drive into what they're doing, because it's very important to be good at something. It will make you feel better. So
most definitely. I think that's the same with us. Like with our two girls now, we want them to appreciate the value of life. Like the oldest, she might not be 100% there with it. She'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then she'll toddle off. But the youngest, she's really picking it up, even though she's only 2. She goes in. First thing she'll head for is the tortoise. She loves it. So that's what we wanted to leave behind, like caring, nurturing souls that'll turn around and say, actually, yeah. So you want to leave your mark, and the best way to do it, you're right, is through your children. So I'm pretty sure no matter what you do, you're going to be golden in your daughter's eyes, most definitely. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been really lovely getting to know you, and we look forward to continuing to follow you on your journey. For everybody listening, you can follow Trey on Instagram and YouTube at Palmetto State Geckos. Thank you to everybody listening. Don't forget, we do have a competition running over on our social media pages. It's a really amazing bundle with items from some amazing small businesses, and the competition will be drawn once we reach 100 YouTube subscribers. So enjoy the rest of your day or night, depending on when you're listening to this. And we'll see you next week for our next podcast. Bye.
bye.
See you later.